Hello, everyone. My name is Decker Link, the trained unprofessional. What the fuck day is it? It's the 13th. Jesus, this year's gone by fast. What? Jenna furrows her brow, a light sigh escaping from between her lips. I don't know. I feel her hand discreetly reach over and squeeze my side. Hold on, Chase, she mutters, refocusing her attention back on the weasel. Duke, please focus on me for a moment. Listen to the words I am saying. Have you seen Carl since last night? Duke hangs his maw open, rolling his jaw around from side to side until there's an audible click as it locks into place. I don't think you're hearing me. I heard you, Duke. Please, a yes or no answer, and then we can discuss what you saw with Chase here. Duke's bloodshot gaze flicks back to me, and there's something expectant about the look in his eyes. Like he's waiting for me to say something revelatory. I have no clue what he's talking about, though, and Jenna doesn't seem to want to give him an inch of leeway to change the topic of conversation. As his teeth grit past his thin lips. Despite the intensity he's putting off, he looks kind of distracted, like we're only getting about 3/4 of his attention. Maybe it wasn't quite you, though, was it? His voice is strained and quiet. The weasel scratches his inner thigh. I didn't see the ram boy, or his little rich parents. Okay, thank you. Chance? Oh, I only got here on Saturday. I wasn't here before then. There's only really one other otter in town, as far as I know, and he probably weighs 150 pounds more than me. So I don't really know who else it could be. Duke just glares in response to that, and I can't help but drift my gaze to the gun he's holding so idly in his grasp. I think he notices as I see his fingers clench around the base a little tighter. Okay, thank you, Duke. It's really good to see you again. If you have the time, keep an eye out for him, okay? We can't seem to track him down. He's right there. He points to me. No, I'm referring to Carl. Carl's not here. Oh, shit.
Carl's dead.
Duke's fucking expression changed. Duh. Right. We're going to go look around some more and knock on a few doors once the sun's up. You take care, all right? Before I can so much as raise my paw in farewell, Jenna's already turned about and making her way down the street. Again, I have to hustle to catch up. That's interesting. That fucking Duke would be so willing to admit that it might not have been us. Where in the other route, he was dead fucking certain it was us, or maybe he did have that, like, or maybe it wasn't you, but you know what the boo. So, of course, this is also earlier in the timeline than in the other route. After another half hour or so of searching, we end up heading back to Carl's place. The poor fuck's been laying in his goddamn basement passed out for God knows how long. After the whole interview with Duke, she starts ranting a little about meth use and the physiological effects. Admittedly, I was only picking up on bits and pieces of what she was saying. Apparently, the drug stimulates the parts of the brain that create urges for tinkering, which is why yards of meth houses often look like scrapyards after extended use. Poor Duke. Now, the guy always kind of skeeved me out, even back when we were kids. I think he used to have a wife at some point, who I remember being really nice. She used to ride her bike around town all the time, and one day she stopped by to help me set up a root beer float stand. Then one day she just kind of disappeared. Hell, I think I was playing at Leo's house when the cops came to the door and asked if Leo's parents had seen her. We're in the house. Jenna uses her newly acquired spare house key and lets us in. I'd spent so much time in Carl's house growing up that stepping aside always kind of feels like coming home. Carl's parents were never as friendly as Leo's or TJ's, but they were often just straight up absent, which means we got the run of the place. I glance off to the side and notice a divot in the wood paneling next to the door. Carl slammed his head there when we were roughhousing 6 or 7 years ago. It's a wonder we didn't do more damage. There's Jenna, smiling. Jenna nudges me with her shoulder, and I shift my attention back to her. Hey, I'm going to put something on in the living room. I've been mainly cramped up there on the couch with my laptop while you guys were out earlier trying to get some studying done. Despite the quiet, it's a little difficult to focus with all this going on. So you want to watch some TV? Netflix and chill? Well, sure, I've got something in mind. She smiles at me, turning tail to head down the hall. I follow suit, briefly considering raiding the cupboards for snacks, but that feels kind of out of line considering the circumstances. Flynn had turned the air conditioning off last night, so we got the ceiling fan going overhead. It's doing a pretty good job of keeping me cool. The blades spinning so fast they almost look still. When I was a kid, I was always afraid of having my fan on the high setting. The thing would start to wobble and click, and I thought at any moment it would spin off its socket and come careening right toward me. This one Carl has looks extremely sturdy, though. Kinda looks like it's made up of some sort of brushed copper with a turquoise-painted metal base. It's at this point I realize I'm not doing a good job of focusing on the anime Jenna put on. Oh, that explains why it's so extra. I glance over to her to see if she's noticed my wandered gaze, but I see that her eyes are closed. At first I think she's asleep, though they begin to flutter open after some time. She rolls her head some in my direction, catching my gawking. She smiles lightly, stretching her arms out over her head and letting out a long yawn. What? I put on my best innocent face. Just checking to see if you were as riveted by the ongoing developments of Mr. Wong's fledgling dim sum business. An amused noise escapes between her lips, her left ear twitching some as she stares at the screen with half-lidded eyes. Have the magical demon girls shown up yet? The magical demon? What? I thought this was a nice little... what do they call it? A slice of life thing? Well, I suppose that's how they get you. She hums her words, her tone sleepy and warm. They lull you into something calm, low pressure, giving you a chance to really live the setting before they pull the rug out from beneath you. I wonder where the fuck that... Jenna's tone is infectious, and even I start to speak with a sort of rumbling, only half-serious whine. They all have to be like that? I mean, what if I just want a quiet, slow burn kind of show? It seems like all of them these days just have fantastical bullshit that comes out of nowhere. On screen, the character of Mr. Wong, a rotund red panda, is cooking a batch of fried rice in a large wok. It's all so lovingly animated for something so mundane. You can practically see each individual piece of egg, pepper, and seasoning he sprinkles on top. Chase, there's plenty of slow burn shows out there. And how would you even know? You told me you don't keep up with this stuff anymore. I mean, occasionally I'll put on some anime when I'm bored back at Pueblo. Oh, yeah? Oh, I guess hanging out with you has made me kind of interested again. Jenna smiles again, and I can see her little tips of her tiny fangs. She shifts in her seat, scooting from her side of the sofa to mine. Her arms wrap around my torso, squeezing me some. Without really thinking, I rest my head against hers and exhale for what seems like ages. I can feel butterflies in my stomach somewhere deep down, the light prickle of goosebumps along my neck. It's so intimate, so beyond the boundaries of closeness that Jenna and I have shared in the past. But it's comfortable. No judgment or pressure. Just two people on the same wavelength, both very tired, stressed out, kind of slap happy. I watch her chest rise and fall against mine, her fur so much softer than mine, It's like running your paws through goose down. I don't know what the fuck that means. I slide my fingers around her shoulder and down her arm and back up again. Is this just platonic? Like one of those cuddly girl slumber party kind of things? We never did anything like this when we were younger, though. The closest thing I can think of is when we shared an air mattress when we went camping for my 16th birthday. Leo haven't been out of town at the time, of course. You're very cute, Chase. Her words take me by surprise. The compliment's so blatant and not something I've been told in years. Uh-oh. Oh, that's music right there. It feels like a minute passes before I feel her weight shift beside me. She looks up at me, and I look back down at her. Next thing I know, her mouth is pressed against mine. Holy mother of God. My heart skips in my chest, and there's definitely some tightness in my shorts. My muzzle is small, and my tongue real easily fills its inside once she opens her lips. We continue for some time, the noise and the TV seeming to fade in the background. It an unimportant mumbling drowned out by our pounding heartbeats and the whir of the spinning fan above. It wasn't until the episode ends and we're left in actual silence that Jenna seems to pause. She pulls back, eyes on my chest, and her expression indiscernible in the new darkness. I'm a little concerned about moving forward with this. I've seen how these things sorta can destroy friendships, and the one I have with you I truly value. I'm worried we'll look at ourselves in the morning, or in a couple of hours, and be disappointed with ourselves. Wait. I stopped for a second, frowning. Are you saying you don't want to, at least in part, because you think I'm going to be bad at it? Jenna doesn't immediately respond. Oh no. I've done it plenty of times. The voice comes out a little louder than expected, and Jenna pushes her paw to my mouth, hushing me. I pull her away, repeating myself, but this time more quietly. I'm not bad at sex. I can feel my cheeks burning at this point. Jenna's increasingly amused expression not helping at all. Chase, oh my God. Jenna's shoulders shake as she titters, clearly tickled by how flustered I'm getting. I'm serious. I can see that. That's not exactly what I was getting at, but I'm well aware you and Leo snuck off every chance you could when you were younger. But as you may possibly know, there are several slight differences in anatomy between Leo and I. I continue to frown at her as hard as I can. Okay, don't give me that look. Now I actually feel bad. I grunt quietly. Well, how many guys have you been with? You got to ask me earlier at the diner, so it's only fair, right? After the first year at college, I pretty much lost complete contact with Jenna's social circle. Initially, it was because Carl never really wanted to go out, so he mainly just hung out at our dorm. But by the time Carl dropped out, it was like all social links had been severed. I'd look at the pictures she'd post on her timeline, and I wouldn't recognize anyone she was friends with. It was such a contrast, seeing all her at all these fancy events, wearing formal dresses and receiving awards. For a while, I thought she'd just changed, transformed by college life and the intellectual peers she surrounded herself with. But talking to her again this week, I've come to realize that's not the case at all. She was always that person. It was just everyone else that brought her down to our level, I guess. Been with? She leans back some, perking an eyebrow and putting on a professional visage, though she's still got a mirth-laden look in her eyes. Are you asking about dating or sex?
Both, I guess.
Oh, well, about the same then. 6 or 7.
6.5?
Let's just say 6.
What happened with number 7?
She lets out an amused noise and seems to think for a moment as she strokes her chin. Oh, it was nothing too serious. Just this guy who worked at the gym I went to. I believe he was a draft horse.
My mouth goes a little dry. A draft horse?
Mm-hmm. She smiles lightly. He was really sweet, and his muscles were nice. Usually, I don't like being picked up, but it was definitely interesting. with him being nearly 7 feet tall. I stare blankly at her, eyes wide. She continues to smile at me, though the corner of her mouth twitches and she brings her paw up to cover her muzzle. Chase, I'm messing with you. Jenna! I scowl. Wait, is that really your type? I thought you would be more like into twiggy anime boys. I'll have you know my manga and anime interests do not control my love life. I like people primarily based off their personality. Oh, I'm fucked then. Jenna chuckles at that. She reaches out and takes my paw, giving it a firm squeeze before patting my cheek. Though it feels nice, I'm still not sure how to take all this. I'm sorry for messing with you. Her voice is clear and soft, and she punctuates the end of her sentence with a kiss on the tip of my nose. I'm admittedly a little nervous myself. Crossing new thresholds like this can be a little nerve-wracking. But make no mistake, I do want this. I'll let that settle for a moment before reaching up, taking hold of each of her wrists. Wait, are you serious? She nods happily. If you're okay with it, of course. Really? You and me? She nods again. Mm-hmm. Like, boyfriend and girlfriend. The thought enter my head just before I speak it, and I have just enough time to close my mouth before it's uttered. She looks at me curiously. Just shut up and say yes. Yeah, I'm down with this. Yeah. Wow. What is this? Oh my. This is not a sexy way to start a sex scene at all. What the fuck? What was that? Dot. Yo! You guys been having fun? I glanced down at Jenna, her legs still intertwined in my own. Quickly tried to untangle us, scooting to the other side of the couch while yanking up my shorts. She got a firm grip on my tail for some reason, and I have to grit my teeth to keep from yelping as it tugs. Groggily, I begin to see her turquoise eyes flutter open, blinking at her surroundings, and me, and the sound come from the entrance hall. She rubs her face, trying to shake off the sleep fatigue. What'd you say? There's some clattering noises from the kitchen coming from the kitchen. Oh, God. Like the rustling of plastic bags and clacking of Tupperware. Did he not see us? Thank fuck he's a lizard and can't smell us at least. I asked if you fuckers have been having fun. It's midday. Flynn, you got our text. We were up late last night searching for Carl. Yeah, and making yourself at home here. What you got on over there, hentai? I checked the TV. It's frozen on a guide menu screen grab of a frantic anime girl holding way more bowls of soup than is ordinarily considered reasonable. Then yaws into her paw, quietly pulling up a black pair of panties around her thighs, followed by her trademark jean shorts. She's so lackadaisy about it, she doesn't care that if she's caught. Her expression is distracted, but not by Flynn or me. Though she does manage a quick smile in my direction when she does focus her gaze my way. I return the smile, albeit lopsidedly, half my face still feeling tingly and asleep. So we're dead fucking certain that Duke doesn't know shit then. God damn it. You hear the heavy footfalls of the Gila leave the kitchen, making his way around to us. He's holding 4 small plastic containers. He gives 2 to each of us, setting them down on the coffee table. The insides are fogged up with condensation or steam, so I can't exactly tell what they contain. Looks green, I guess. Flynn sees me gawk and lets out an exasperated puff of air through his flared nostrils. The top container's got Caesar salad, the bottom's fresh cooked bluegill. Bluegill? I blink at the steamy container. Catch that yourself? Yeah. Perks a brow ridge. And you cooked it just for us? The line of questions seemed to give the Gila pause, as if he needs to make sure he phrases his next words carefully. Jenna smirks in my direction before blowing her nose into a tissue. Usually I drop some off for Carl. folds his arms over his chest.
You know, to make sure he doesn't go into a full-on diabetic coma, his arteries packed up with pizza and energy drinks.
They did not spend much time proofreading this update. That's very thoughtful of you, Flynn. Yeah, thanks, man. I give him a thumbs up, to which he just shakes his head.
Whatever. Any word from the sheriff's office?
Jenna reaches into her shorts and grabs her phone. She taps at it for a few moments before shaking her head. Nothing. The person I spoke with at the office said they would reach out to me with any questions or updates they had.
God, fucking useless.
Hey, a slightly different expression from Flynn.
You're so goddamn overstaffed there anyway. How hard can it be to find one fat-ass rich kid in the middle of the vast fucking nowhere?
Apparently rather difficult.
Just waiting for Carl's parents to post for reward money or some shit.
I don't think public entities get to claim those sorts of things. Flynn scowls at Jenna for a good 4 seconds before turning away, walking to the grand living room window, and peering out into the backyard.
Well, yeah, I fucking know that. It just don't make a lick of sense. No food, cars, or cell phones missing, nothing valuable stolen, and no break-ins indicated. Besides the scuff marks you made on the way in.
Flynn, if I hadn't gone through the window, Leo would have eventually shoulder-rammed the front door down. Flynn holds his hands behind the back of his head, clenching his eyes shut.
Yeah. God, what a fucking crazy ass. At least his desperate party attempt to help us figure out Carl was missing earlier.
She now pushes herself to her feet, walking over beside Flynn. She folds her arms over her chest. So we briefly skimmed over this yesterday, but with regards to Carl's mental state leading up to all this. Flynn ever so slightly shifts his head in the Fennec's direction, their size difference stark as they stand silhouetted in front of the window. Is there anything you can think of that would help us out here?
Anything to cause Carl to say fuck it and run out into the desert without any belongings, you mean?
Yes, Jenna answers flatly.
He's been depressed as hell, but that's how he's been since he dropped out of college. All that digital art shit he used to do, he hasn't done much of that either lately. Whenever I check my phone or computer, he's always online, just sending me memes and shit all day. Despite my efforts, there ain't been much in the line of indication he's been planning on changing that routine anytime soon.
I'm sorry to hear that. She sounds genuine to that regard, letting out a quiet sigh.
Ain't nothing you can do about it from fancy college land.
I finally get my ass off the couch, silently hoping that I hadn't left the surface all oily.
I think he's been getting high more. Says it chills him out, helps with nightmares and shit.
Nightmares? Flynn nods.
Yeah, he's been going off about how his house is haunted. Says things get weird whenever he goes to bed.
Weird how? Flynn is starting to look increasingly exasperated at my continued prodding. It evident he wants to shift focus back to the search effort.
Oh, Chase, I don't know. Bumps in the night, creepy children whispers, distant laugh, and that sort of shit. Said he only heard them when he was about to fall asleep or was waking up, so he could never investigate.
Interesting.
Really?
You said that getting high was how he coped with this newfound paranoia?
Mm-hmm. Let him sleep over once and my whole room smelled like skunk weed for a fucking week.
He slept over because he was afraid to be here, in this house.
No, he stayed over because I was plowing his ass.
His tone is laden with sarcasm, and I even find myself snickering a bit at the shock. Jenna didn't laugh, though, meeting Flynn's gaze with an indiscernible expression. Gila clears his throat, scratching at his stomach.
Yeah, he was afraid to be here.
I know enough about Carl's family to know that his house is seriously old. His great-great-something or another is the town founder, after all. Yeah, James Hendricks, the guy we just met in the smoke room. The place has been seriously modernized into a more stucco adobe style, but there's some definite history underneath all this. Growing up, Carl started thinking there were ghosts in the house. It freaked him out pretty badly. So much so, his parents basically begged me to have sleepovers with him during the weekends and even some weekdays. Not that I minded, of course. Carl had all the video game consoles that were out, and his parents bought him M-rated games. I got to stay up late with his giant TV, blowing up aliens and running over hookers. I remember he started to become less afraid as time went on, and his parents stopped asking for me to come over as much. So, of course, shitbag younger me told Carl a bunch of stories about a ghost bride who I said I saw standing outside his house at midnight. And that's how I got to spend my whole 5th grade summer vacation living at Carl's place. The fact that Carl still freaked out about this sort of thing is pretty concerning. Well, to be quite fair, if I held the mindset that my house was haunted and saw whatever that was on the phone out my window, she pauses, shaking her head, I'd probably be rather freaked out as well.
Yeah, but would you run outside? That doesn't make any sense. Whatever happened, Carl left willingly. You don't try and kidnap a fucking ram without getting some serious dents and scratches in the drywall.
The idea of Carl being assaulted like this is starting to give me a serious pit in the bottom of my stomach. I guess, unless they had him at like gunpoint or something. Oh boy, that's another expression from Flynn. They're all very similar, but just slightly different. There's a look of sudden shock at the direness of my words that flashes across Flynn's face. Anxiety, fear, concern, all expressions seldom seen on the lizard. And there he's back to normal. He quickly stifles them, adopting his usual disgruntled and demeanor, emitting forth a familiar grunt in response. Guys, I think we're escalating here. No offense to you, Chase, but I think I might want to have a chat with Jeremy myself. You can come along, of course. Same to you, Flynn. Despite Jenna's assurance of non-offense, I can't help but feel a little shitty about not pressing harder for information while I was there. I mean, fuck, I want to be a journalist, right? I can't be getting intimidated by childhood bullies. Flynn nods, but only slightly.
Yeah, but Chase said he told him the drugs he sold weren't laced.
Laced drugs wouldn't result in that image on the phone.
Shit, I haven't talked to that flunk ass in so fucking long.
You were always a bit too old to get the brunt of his sadistic side when we were growing up.
Thought that was mainly Clint?
They all rubbed off on each other easily enough, and probably pretty often. Flynn pulls out his phone, a rather dated, first-gen looking thing from the late 2000s. He pecks at it with his large fingers, walking off toward the foyer.
Gonna text TJ and Pinball Smasher that we're together and asking around.
No need to be more specific than that.
Trust me, wasn't about to tell him where we're headed till we're done.
Poor TJ. I'll make sure to text him to make sure he's alright. We start to head out as well when he suddenly calls out back to us.
Oh, and bring your goddamn lunch. It took me for fucking ever to put that together.
Aw. Ah, well, there you go. That's the end of that update for Jenna's route. We had a seemingly anticlimactic and non-related sex scene that hopefully will pay off at some point for something. And, nothing really got resolved. This update really didn't do much in now, but I'm hoping it's one of those where, like, what we do will make sense in the grand scheme of things. But, considering in all the other routes, he's literally just, like, lying in the fucking basement, I feel bad for the fuck. Either way, thank you all very much for joining me on this update of Echo. On the next one, we'll, I guess, be talking to Jeremy. And who knows what the fuck else. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, I have been the Trained Professional. You are not, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.